My name is Liam, or at least, that's who I used to be. Now I gaze at a reflection that isn't quite my own, a face I've only ever admired from a distance, a life I've irrevocably claimed. It all began 3 years ago, a lifetime and a heartbeat away, with a confession whispered in the twilight and a rejection delivered with the practiced gentleness of a surgeon's blade. Melissa, my best friend, was a supernova. Her laughter sparkled, her presence radiated, and men orbited her like eager satellites. I, on the other hand, was the quiet observer, the reliable anchor in her sometimes chaotic world. We'd navigated college together, a whirlwind of late-night study sessions fueled by cheap coffee and even cheaper ramen, of shared dreams and whispered secrets. But beneath the comfortable veneer of friendship, a dangerous current churned within me. I was hopelessly, irrevocably in love with her. The night I finally confessed was a blur of raw emotion and ill-fated courage. We were sitting on her apartment balcony, the city lights shimmering below like a scattered handful of diamonds. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and unspoken desires. I'd rehearsed the words 1,000 times, each syllable a tiny shard of hope and fear. When they finally tumbled out, clumsy and earnest, a lifetime of adoration poured into a few trembling sentences. The silence that followed was deafening. "Liam," she'd begun, her voice soft, almost regretful, "you know I love you, but as a friend. Just as a friend." The words, though kind, landed like a physical blow. "I hope you understand." I nodded, feigning a stoicism I didn't feel, a mask of casual acceptance that barely concealed the gaping wound in my chest. Of course, I'd managed, my voice a strained whisper. "Friends. That's all I ever wanted." It was a lie, a desperate, pathetic attempt to salvage some semblance of dignity from the wreckage of my heart. But even then, even after the crushing rejection, I couldn't tear myself away. My life without Melissa in it, even as just a friend, seemed an unbearable void. So I stayed, a silent sentinel guarding a love that would never be reciprocated, nursing a secret ache that only grew with each passing day. The universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor, for it was in the crucible of that enduring, unrequited love that the unimaginable began to take root. 2 months ago, the delicate balance of my carefully constructed world shattered. Melissa's voice, usually a melody of effortless charm, crackled with raw panic through the phone. "Liam, you have to come over." "I'm freaking out," she practically screamed, and I knew, with a sinking feeling, that something significant had happened. When I arrived at her apartment, she was a whirlwind of agitated energy, pacing her living room like a caged tigress. Her usually immaculate hair was a mess, and her flawless makeup was smudged, a clear indication of her distress. "It's David," she blurted out, her words tumbling over each other. "The guy I've been talking to online. He finally asked me out on a real date, and I'm going to mess it up." I tried to soothe her, offering the usual platitudes. "Melissa, you're gorgeous, you're witty, you're charming. You'll be fine." But my words were like pebbles against a tidal wave of anxiety. "You don't understand," she wailed, clutching her head. Online, I can think about my responses, craft the perfect witty retort. But face to face, I freeze. I'm going to say something stupid, I just know it. Then, with a dramatic flourish, she produced a peculiar object from the depths of her purse, an antique ring, its silver tarnished with age, an intricate, almost unsettling symbol etched into its face. "What if you went for me?" she asked, her eyes wide and pleading. I stared at her, utterly dumbfounded, convinced she'd finally lost her mind. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice laced with disbelief. She held up the ring, its ancient surface gleaming faintly in the afternoon light. "The old woman who sold it to me at the estate sale, she said it could swap two people's bodies." She looked at me, her expression a mix of desperate hope and wild abandon. "I know it sounds insane, Liam, but what if it actually works?" A part of me recoiled, rational thought screaming at the absurdity of it all. But another, darker part, a part fueled by years of unspoken longing, stirred with a dangerous curiosity. What would it be like, even for a single night, to be Melissa? To inhabit her skin, to experience the world through her eyes, to feel the effortless power she wielded? If this thing actually works, I said slowly, the words feeling foreign on my tongue, you want me to go on a date, as you? Her desperation was palpable. Just this once, Liam, she pleaded, to help me out. Please. Looking back, that was my turning point, the moment I should have slammed the brakes. But the siren song of a lifetime's unrequited love was too strong. She was asking me to literally be her, to step into the life I'd always secretly coveted. How could I, the ever-devoted friend, the secret admirer, possibly resist? The air in Melissa's apartment thrummed with an inexplicable energy as we stood there, the antique ring held precariously between our intertwined fingers. My heart, already a frantic drum against my ribs, hammered even harder. A part of me, the logical, grounded Liam, screamed that this was lunacy, a desperate fantasy born of Melissa's anxiety and my own foolish hopes. Yet another, more primal part, yearned for the impossible, a fleeting taste of the life I'd always watched from the sidelines. Make the wish, Melissa whispered, her voice barely audible, thick with a mixture of fear and fervent desire. Wish for us to swap. Her eyes, wide and shimmering with unshed tears, locked onto mine. There was a raw vulnerability in them I hadn't seen before, a crack in her usually impenetrable facade of confidence. For a split second, I hesitated, a cold premonition brushing against my soul. This was it, the precipice. One step forward, and there would be no going back. But the image of her rejection, the echo of just friends, spurred me on. What did I have to lose? My own life, though comfortable, felt muted, a black and white film compared to the vibrant technicolor of hers. Together, we closed our eyes, our fingers tightening around the cool metal of the ring. I focused all my will, all my unspoken desire on the impossible. Let me be her. Just for tonight. The wish, a silent scream within my mind, was almost palpable. Then a jolt. Not a gentle tingle, but a violent, disorienting snap that reverberated through every cell of my being. It was as if a mighty hand had reached into my core, twisted something fundamental, and then violently rearranged it. A blinding flash of white light erupted behind my eyelids, followed by a dizzying sensation, like falling endlessly through space. My stomach lurched, my head spun, and a sudden, sharp pressure built behind my eyes. I gasped, a sound that felt alien, not quite my own. When I opened my eyes, the world had tilted. My perspective had shifted, literally. I was no longer looking down at Melissa's hand holding the ring. I was looking across the room at my own body. My own familiar, slightly lanky, masculine form stood there, a strange, bewildered expression on its face. And within that body, its hands now delicately curved and slender, was Melissa, staring down at them in utter shock. "Oh my gosh," she whispered, her voice thick with disbelief. But it wasn't her voice. It was my voice, deep and resonant, coming from my own mouth. The sound sent a shiver down my spine, a chilling confirmation of the impossible. The first thing I registered in this new existence was the overwhelming sense of difference. My body felt lighter, almost ethereal. My center of gravity had shifted. The sturdy, familiar frame of Liam was replaced by something entirely new. I felt a subtle curve in my lower back, an undeniable swell in my chest, a sensation I had could never, have experienced before. There was a delicate arch to my feet, a graceful length to my fingers. Everything was smaller, more delicate, yet imbued with a strange, nascent power. I tentatively raised my new hand, turning it over, marveling at its slender grace. The nails were perfectly manicured, a soft pink. My own hands, I suddenly realized, were broader, scarred from years of clumsy encounters with tools and rough surfaces. This was a stranger's hand, yet it was undeniably mine now. I stumbled towards the large mirror on Melissa's wall, my movements awkward and uncoordinated, like a newborn foal finding its legs. My gaze met the reflection, and Melissa's beautiful, familiar face stared back at me. Her wide, almond-shaped eyes, framed by long, dark lashes, were now my own. Her full, perfectly sculpted lips, usually curving into a radiant smile, were slightly parted in an expression of astonished disbelief. Her cascade of rich, dark hair, which I had always admired, now fell around my shoulders. "This is so weird," I breathed, the words forming with Melissa's voice, a higher, softer timbre than I was accustomed to. It was her voice, yet it was my thoughts, my emotions, flowing through it. The disassociation was profound, unsettling, yet intoxicating. Across the room, my old body, now inhabited by Melissa, was experiencing its own tumultuous adjustment. She stumbled, catching herself on the arm of the sofa, clearly struggling with the unexpected height and bulk. Her eyes, now Liam's eyes, darted around the room, wide with a mixture of terror and awe. I can't believe it," she stammered, my deeper voice struggling to articulate her shock. It actually worked. But the dizzying wonder of the transformation was quickly eclipsed by the encroaching reality of the situation. The date with David, the very reason for this fantastical swap, was looming. We had barely 2 hours. 2 hours to acclimate to entirely new bodies, new sensations, new ways of moving and speaking. The absurdity of it all might have made me laugh, had I not been so thoroughly overwhelmed. Melissa, her face still pale with shock, quickly regained her composure. Her practical nature, even in the midst of this sci-fi nightmare, kicked in. "Okay," she said, her voice still a little shaky in my old body. "We need to get you ready." She paused, an awkward flush creeping up her neck. "But first," she continued, a slight tremor in her voice, "you need to, change clothes." She averted her gaze, her eyes landing on a silken blindfold draped over a nearby chair. "Here," she said, picking it up. "Put this on. It'll make it less awkward for you." The blindfold was a small mercy, a thin veil against the profound strangeness that was about to unfold. But even with my eyes covered, the act of undressing was an assault on my senses. Every touch, every movement, was entirely new. The sensation of fabric sliding against unfamiliar curves, the whisper of silk against newly sensitive skin. My fingers, now slender and delicate, fumbled with a bra clasp, a device I had only ever seen, never experienced. The feeling of it coming undone, the sudden lightness, was startling. I tried to compartmentalize, to focus on the mechanics of the task, to detach my mind from the profound implications of what I was doing. "Just change the clothes, Liam. Just change the clothes." But it was impossible. Each rustle of fabric, each brush of skin against skin, was a potent reminder that this was not my body, yet it undeniably was. I was inhabiting another's form, feeling sensations that were both alien and incredibly vivid. "Are you okay in there?" Melissa's voice, my old voice, called out, tinged with concern. "Yeah," I replied, the sound of Melissa's voice coming from my own mouth still jarring. This is really strange." I wrestled with the delicate fabric of the dress she had chosen, a shimmering emerald green that I now realized would perfectly complement my new dark hair and complexion. It was a struggle, a battle against unfamiliar seams and fasteners, a dance I had never learned. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I was dressed. "Ready?" I called out, my voice still a little breathless. Melissa turned, and then the full, unvarnished reality hit both of us like a tidal wave. I stood there, in Melissa's body, wearing her dress, her shoes, her carefully chosen accessories. And it looked completely natural, as if I had always belonged in this form. The emerald green fabric shimmered, highlighting curves that were undeniably feminine, undeniably beautiful. My reflection, Melissa's reflection, gazed back at me with an air of effortless elegance I had never possessed. Melissa, in my old body, gasped, a sound of pure awe and a hint of something else, something I couldn't quite decipher in the moment. The transformation was complete. Liam was gone. Melissa remained, but within her, a new consciousness had taken root, ready to embark on an adventure that would redefine everything I thought I knew about myself and the world. The blindfold gone, the awkward disrobing behind us, Melissa, or rather, my old body with her consciousness, took charge. She guided me through her intricate beauty routine with the practiced ease of a seasoned artist. Foundation first, she instructed, her voice, my voice, now more steady. Just a light layer to even out the tone. Then a little blush here on the apples of your cheeks. Her fingers, in my broad hands, demonstrated the precise movements, the subtle dabs and sweeps of brushes and sponges. It was a surreal experience, receiving beauty advice from my own face. Her eyes in the mirror followed her, my every move, a strange duality of self. As she meticulously applied mascara to her long lashes, then lip gloss to her full lips, she continued to prep me, not just cosmetically, but mentally. Remember, she cautioned, her voice low and serious, his name is David. You've been talking about your job at the art gallery. You're passionate about contemporary pieces, remember? And please, she added, her eyes, Liam's eyes, meeting mine, Melissa's, a desperate plea shining through, please don't do anything weird. The implication was clear, don't mess this up for her. Don't reveal the monumental, impossible secret. Dressed in a shimmering emerald green cocktail dress that hugged my new curves in all the right places, and a pair of delicate, strappy heels that added an extra boost of height, I felt utterly transformed. The dress, a garment I would never have dared to even look at in my former life, now felt like a second skin. It was empowering, intoxicating. My reflection, Melissa's reflection, was undeniably stunning, and for the first time, I understood the power that beauty wielded. The date was set at the Gilded Spoon, an upscale restaurant downtown, known for its hushed elegance and Michelin-starred menu. As the Uber pulled up to the curb, I felt a familiar tremor of nerves, but it was quickly overshadowed by a thrilling surge of anticipation. This wasn't just a date, it was an experiment, a foray into an entirely new existence. Walking into the opulent lobby, my new body moved with a lightness and grace I'd never known. Heads subtly turned, eyes lingered, and a waiter immediately approached, a deferential smile on his face. This was the Melissa effect, a tangible aura of attraction and respect that had always followed her. And now it was mine. David was already seated at a discreet corner table, a glass of wine in front of him. He was even more handsome in person than in his profile pictures, tall, with kind eyes and a warm smile that instantly put me at ease. As I approached, a genuine, unbidden smile bloomed on my new lips. "Melissa," he asked, standing up, his eyes widening slightly as he took me in. "You look incredible." His voice was warm, a low rumble that sent a surprising shiver down my spine. "Thank you, David," I replied, my voice, Melissa's voice, flowing smoothly, confidently. And in that moment, something clicked. The initial awkwardness, the fear of discovery, began to recede, replaced by a surge of unadulterated confidence. I was no longer Liam pretending to be Melissa. I was, in every meaningful sense, her. My natural confidence, always present but often overshadowed by my self-consciousness as Liam, now had a perfect vessel. The conversation flowed effortlessly. I found myself recounting details about the art gallery, not just facts, but infusing them with a genuine passion for the work, a passion Melissa had described to me numerous times. I told witty anecdotes, engaged him in lively debates about abstract expressionism, and found myself laughing with genuine delight at his jokes. David hung on my every word, his gaze never leaving my face. He leaned in conspiratorially when I shared a humorous observation, his hand occasionally brushing mine as he emphasized a point. His interest was palpable, flattering, and intensely gratifying. He ordered a bottle of crisp Sauvignon Blanc, and as the wine loosened my inhibitions further, I felt an unprecedented sense of liberation. It wasn't just about impressing David, it was about experiencing myself, truly experiencing myself, in a way I never had. The physical sensations were heightened, too. The delicate scent of the flowers on the table, the soft music drifting from hidden speakers, the warmth of David's hand on mine, everything felt more vivid, more immediate. As the evening wore on, the line between Liam and Melissa blurred, then finally dissolved. I was simply me, a new, amplified version of myself, embodying all the charm, wit, and beauty I had only ever admired from afar. David's eyes held a deep admiration, a simmering desire that was both exhilarating and profoundly disarming. Being seen as beautiful, being desired so intensely, was an intoxicating elixir. It filled a void I hadn't even realized existed within me. The date was an unqualified success, far exceeding anything Melissa or I could have hoped for. David walked me back to Melissa's apartment, the cool night air a welcome contrast to the warmth that had bloomed between us. We stood at her doorstep, the city lights painting a soft glow on our faces. The moment was ripe with anticipation, a silent question hanging in the air. He leaned in, his gaze searching mine, and then his lips met mine. The kiss was electric. Not a hesitant peck, but a deep, lingering connection that sent shivers through my entire body. It was a fusion of tenderness and raw passion, a dizzying swirl of sensation that ignited something profound within me. I didn't pull away. I couldn't. The feeling of being so utterly desired, so completely wanted, was overwhelming, addictive. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were clouded with emotion. "Can I come up?" he asked, his voice husky, a hopeful plea. And without a moment's hesitation, without any conscious thought, a single word formed on my new lips, a word that would forever alter the course of both our lives. The yes escaped my lips before my brain had even fully processed the question. It wasn't a calculated decision, but an instinct, a powerful, undeniable pull towards an experience I craved with a ferocity that startled me. David's face lit up, a soft smile spreading across his features, and he followed me into Melissa's apartment, closing the door softly behind him. The living room, usually a familiar space, now felt charged with an unspoken energy. The dim lighting, the lingering scent of Melissa's perfume, the quiet hum of the city outside, everything conspired to create an atmosphere of intimate possibility. David's presence was warm, comforting, yet undeniably thrilling. What happened next was not just a physical encounter, it was a revelation. I had experienced intimacy before in my life as Liam, but it had always felt somewhat muted. Functional, perhaps, but rarely transcendent. This was different. Profoundly, exhilaratingly different. David was gentle, attentive, his touch a delicate exploration of unfamiliar terrain. Every caress, every kiss, sent tremors through my new body. The heightened sensitivity of my skin, the unfamiliar contours of my form, responded in ways that utterly blew my mind. It wasn't just that it was different from what I'd experienced as a man, it was demonstrably better. So much better. The build-up was an exquisite symphony of sensations. My body, Melissa's body, seemed to anticipate every move, every touch, reacting with an almost instinctive understanding. The intensity grew, a slow, burning ember fanned into a roaring inferno. My breath hitched, my mind whirled, utterly consumed by the escalating pleasure. I felt utterly present, entirely in the moment, every nerve ending alive and singing. And then it finally happened. A wave, not a single peak, but a cascading, rolling tide of sensation that seemed to go on forever. It was like nothing I had ever felt, a profound release, a powerful, all-encompassing ecstasy that transcended mere physicality. Wave after wave, each one more intense than the last, seemed to wash over me, leaving me breathless, trembling, utterly spent, yet paradoxically, completely invigorated. Afterwards, lying there in Melissa's bed, curled against David's warm, comforting presence, a profound realization settled over me. I didn't want this to end. Not just the night, not just the physical pleasure, but this entire experience. This body, these sensations, this feeling of being utterly desired and completely alive, I wanted to hold on to it, to possess it forever. The next morning, the bright sunlight streaming through Melissa's window seemed to mock the lingering shadows of my desire. I was supposed to meet Melissa, to switch back, to return to my old, dull life. But the memory of the night before, of the incredible, transformative pleasure, of the powerful sense of self I had discovered, was too potent to ignore. When her call came, a sharp, insistent ring that shattered the morning's peaceful afterglow, I found myself instinctively making excuses. "I need a few more days to process this," I told her, my voice, her voice sounding surprisingly convincing. It was really intense. I could hear the confusion in her hesitant, "Oh, okay," but she agreed to wait. A small victory, a momentary reprieve. Those few more days quickly spiraled into a week. David called, eager for another date, and I, without a moment's hesitation, accepted. The second date was even better than the first. The initial awkwardness was gone, replaced by a comfortable intimacy and a shared spark that deepened with every interaction. We laughed, we talked for hours, and the connection, physical and emotional, grew stronger. The thrill of it was addictive. I began to explore Melissa's dating profiles online, something I had previously only done with her playful encouragement. Each swipe, each match, each new conversation was an adventure, a chance to feel that exhilarating power again. Men flocked to me, their messages brimming with compliments and invitations. I was beautiful, witty, captivating. I was everything I had always yearned to be, and the world was responding to me in a way it never had as Liam. The attention, the adoration, the effortless ease with which I could navigate social interactions, the doors that opened, the drinks that appeared before me, it was all a potent drug. I was living the life I had always dreamed of, a life of endless possibility and effortless charm, just not in the body I had expected. Every interaction was a chance to feel that intoxicating surge of power, that validation of my desirability. By the second week, a chilling clarity settled over me. I never wanted to go back. The thought of returning to my old body, to my old life, to the muted existence of Liam, filled me with a deep, existential dread. I had tasted paradise, and the thought of relinquishing it was unbearable. That's when I made the decision, a quiet, ruthless act that would forever seal my fate and Melissa's. I took the antique ring, the key to our swap, the only way back, and walked out of Melissa's apartment. I didn't go far, just to the nearest storm drain, its grate dark and unforgiving. With a cold, calculated resolve, I dropped the ring. It clattered once, twice, against the metal, then plunged into the murky depths below, lost forever. No more switching back. This was my life now, and I was never giving it up. The moment the ring disappeared into the darkness of the storm drain, a strange mixture of exhilaration and cold dread washed over me. Exhilaration, because I had finally, irrevocably, claimed this life as my own. Dread, because I knew the consequences would be immense and Melissa's reaction would be furious. But the intoxicating power of my new existence outweighed any burgeoning guilt. I was no longer Liam, the invisible, the overlooked. I was Melissa, and the world was finally seeing me. Melissa's calls started almost immediately, a relentless barrage that threatened to shatter the fragile peace of my stolen new world. Her name flashed on the screen, a ghost from a past I was determined to erase. I ignored them, letting the phone ring until it fell silent. Each unanswered call was a small victory, a severing of another thread that connected me to my former self. When she finally showed up at the apartment, her face, my old face, was etched with desperation and anger. She banged on the door, her fists echoing hollowly through the elegant space. I watched her through the peephole, a detached observer. My old body looked different. The spark that had always animated it, the familiar warmth, was gone. It looked disheveled, unkempt, a pale shadow of its former self. It was a stark reminder of what I had left behind, and a chilling confirmation of how much I had gained. I finally opened the door, a cool, unconcerned expression on Melissa's face. "What do you want, Liam?" I asked, her voice, laced with a casual dismissal that infuriated her. "What do I want?" she shrieked, her voice, my old voice, cracking with emotion. "You know what I want. I want my life back. I want my body back." Her eyes, my old eyes, pleaded, threatened, burned with a desperate fury. "I told you I needed more time," I said, a shrug of Melissa's elegant shoulders. "This whole experience has been a lot to process." My words were carefully chosen, designed to sound reasonable, even sympathetic, while simultaneously reinforcing the impossible situation she found herself in. "Don't play dumb with me," she hissed, her voice dropping to a furious whisper. "I know what you did with the ring. You threw it away, didn't you? You monstrous liar. A smirk, unbidden and undeniably cruel, touched my new lips. And who would believe you, Melissa? I asked, my voice soft, but with an underlying steel. You're in my body now. You're Liam. Who's going to believe that you're actually Melissa, trapped in someone else's skin? You think anyone will take seriously the ramblings of a man claiming to be a woman who has suddenly lost her mind? Her face crumpled, the truth of my words hitting her with brutal force. Her shoulders slumped, and the fire in her eyes flickered, replaced by a dawning despair. She knew I was right. The story was too wild, too unbelievable. No one would ever believe her. She was trapped, a prisoner in a body that was no longer her own, and a life she hadn't asked for. I closed the door gently, leaving her standing there, a broken figure in my discarded shell. The sound of her choked sob was barely audible, but I pushed it away, burying it beneath a fresh wave of determination. Guilt was a luxury I couldn't afford. This was my life now, and I would protect it at all costs. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of self-reinvention. I fully embraced Melissa's life, immersing myself in every detail. Her apartment, once a temporary dwelling, became my permanent home. I learned her preferences, her routines, her mannerisms. I studied her reflections, practiced her smiles, perfected her gestures until they felt entirely natural, entirely my own. Melissa's old job at the art gallery, while interesting, didn't quite fit the vibrant new persona I was cultivating. I craved more direct interaction, more immediate gratification, more opportunities to leverage my newfound charm and beauty. So I quit. With Melissa's impeccable resume and my confident demeanor, securing a new position was surprisingly easy. I found a job at a high-end fashion boutique, a place where my striking looks and innate ability to connect with people made me an instant success. I became a top seller, effortlessly charming clients, guiding them towards exquisite garments and watching the sales figures soar. For the first time, I was making serious money, more than I had ever earned as Liam, the unassuming office worker. My social life flourished. David and I became exclusive after a month, our connection deepening with each passing day. He was everything I could have wanted: kind, handsome, attentive, and utterly devoted. He had no idea he was dating someone who used to be a man, and I had absolutely no intention of ever telling him. Why would I? I was happier than I had ever been. I also continued to explore Melissa's extensive network of friends and acquaintances, carefully navigating conversations, weaving myself seamlessly into her social fabric. It was a delicate dance, remembering shared histories and inside jokes, but I was a quick study. Each successful interaction reinforced my conviction: I was Melissa. Even small things, like walking down the street, felt different. Men held doors open, offered compliments, and competed for my attention. Women, too, reacted differently, some with admiration, others with a hint of envy. I could command a room with a glance, get what I wanted with a smile and a laugh. It was an intoxicating, empowering feeling, a constant affirmation of my new identity. This new life was a tapestry woven with success, adoration, and boundless opportunity. I had shed the skin of Liam, the quiet, the unremarkable, and stepped into the dazzling, vibrant world of Melissa, a world where I was celebrated, desired, and truly alive. And as each day passed, the faint whispers of guilt grew fainter still, drowned out by the crescendo of my newfound happiness. The months that followed were a testament to my unwavering resolve. I had completely assimilated, not just into Melissa's body, but into her entire existence. Liam was a distant memory, a faded photograph in the back of a forgotten album. My new reality was vibrant, tangible, and utterly exhilarating. David and I were inseparable. Our relationship blossomed, deepening into a profound connection built on laughter, shared dreams, and an intimacy that continued to astonish me. He treated me like a queen, showering me with affection, thoughtful gestures, and an unwavering devotion that I soaked up like parched earth. I excelled at the boutique, my sales figures consistently topping the charts. My colleagues admired my effortless charm and keen eye for fashion, while my clients adored my attentive service and genuine enthusiasm. Melissa's beautiful apartment, with its panoramic city views and stylish decor, felt entirely like my own sanctuary. I hosted dinner parties, went on weekend getaways, and filled my days with activities that brought me joy and a sense of belonging I had never known. Sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, a fleeting thought of Melissa, of my old body struggling in a world it wasn't meant for, would prick at the edges of my consciousness. But I quickly banished it. Depiction is not endorsement, I reminded myself, twisting the phrase to suit my own twisted moral compass. My actions were not an endorsement of cruelty, but a claim on a life that had been denied to me. Melissa had her chances. She had everything handed to her on a silver platter, and she had rejected me. Now, I was using her gifts better than she ever had. Then came the night everything threatened to unravel. David and I were at the Velvet Lounge, a trendy wine bar bustling with the city's fashionable elite. We were nestled in a cozy booth, sharing a bottle of exquisite Cabernet, his hand resting warmly on my knee as we debated the merits of abstract art versus classical portraiture. I was laughing, feeling utterly content, basking in the glow of his admiration. It was then I saw her. Across the crowded room, near the bar, stood my old body. My heart gave a lurch, a sudden, cold knot forming in my stomach. It was Melissa. But she looked terrible. The sharp, intelligent gleam in my old eyes was dulled, replaced by a hollow desperation. Her usually neat clothes, my old clothes, hung on her frame awkwardly, as if she hadn't bothered to find anything that truly fit. Her hair, once meticulously styled, was lank and uncared for. She looked lost, a ghost haunting a life that had once been hers. Our eyes met across the room. Her head snapped up, and a flicker of recognition, followed by a blazing fire of raw pain, ignited in my old gaze. She started towards us, pushing through the laughing crowd with a single-minded determination. David, engrossed in our conversation, didn't notice her approach until she was right beside our table, her shadow falling across us. "We need to talk," she whispered, her voice, my voice, hoarse with urgency, an almost animalistic plea. Her hands, my old, broader hands, clenched and unclenched at her sides. I didn't even turn my head fully. With a practiced ease, I touched up my lip gloss in a compact mirror, my movements deliberate, unhurried, radiating an aura of utter disdain. My face, Melissa's face, remained impassive, a mask of cool indifference. "Can't you see I'm with someone?" I said, my voice, Melissa's voice, a silky thread of dismissal. "We can talk later." The implication was clear. I had no intention of talking to her, not then, not ever. She was an inconvenient, embarrassing relic of a past I had abandoned. Melissa flinched as if struck. The desperation in her eyes deepened, but she hesitated, glancing at David, who was now looking at her with a puzzled frown. The weight of social convention, even in her desperate state, held her back. With a strangled gasp, she turned and retreated, melting back into the crowd, leaving behind a lingering scent of despair. "Who is that?" David asked, his brow furrowed with mild curiosity. I snapped the compact shut, meeting his gaze with a serene smile. "Just a former friend," I said, a casual shrug of Melissa's delicate shoulders. "Couldn't take a hint, I'm afraid." The lie slipped out effortlessly, perfectly crafted to dismiss her without a second thought. The truth is, I felt nothing. No pang of guilt, no flicker of pity. Melissa had always been the golden girl, the one who effortlessly charmed everyone, the one who always had everything. And when I had dared to confess my feelings, to offer her my heart, she had rejected it, cast it aside with a polite but firm smile. She had chosen her path, and now I had chosen mine. She had wanted my confidence. Well, now she had my old body, with all its perceived shortcomings and struggles. And I was living her life, her best life, and I was using her assets, her beauty, her charm, far better than she ever had. I reveled in this body, in the way men looked at me, in the effortless command I held in any room. Every night was an adventure if I wanted it to be. David treated me like a queen, because that's exactly what I was in this new existence. Everything he could possibly want in a woman, I embodied. Sometimes a faint, fleeting thought would surface. What is Melissa doing now? Stuck in my old life, facing my old struggles, my old invisibilities? But then David would kiss me, or whisper how beautiful I was, or tell me he loved me, and the thought would vanish, like smoke in the wind. This was my life now. My happiness was paramount. And I was never, ever giving it back. She had asked me to switch bodies with her, and I had. She just never specified for how long. The encounter at the Velvet Lounge, though jarring in the moment, quickly faded into the background, a mere ripple in the otherwise serene ocean of my new life. Melissa's desperate plea, her forlorn figure in my old body, served only to solidify my resolve. It was a stark visual confirmation of the gulf between us now. She, adrift and struggling in a life she couldn't navigate, and I, thriving and celebrated in the one I had so ruthlessly claimed. My life with David continued its upward trajectory. We moved into a larger apartment, a penthouse with breathtaking views of the city's skyline, a testament to my burgeoning success at the boutique and his own flourishing career. Our days were filled with laughter, intellectual sparring, and a deep, comfortable affection. Our nights were a continuation of the sensual awakening I had first experienced, each encounter a reaffirmation of the profound connection we shared. David often whispered how he had never felt such a profound bond with anyone, how I was everything he had ever dreamed of in a partner. His words, sincere and heartfelt, were like nectar to my soul, washing away any lingering shadows of my past. I found myself growing not just into Melissa's physical form, but into her essence. The initial awkwardness of her body was long gone, replaced by a fluid grace that felt entirely natural. Her voice, once an imitation, now felt like my own authentic expression. Her memories, her experiences, even her subtle facial expressions, had become so deeply ingrained that it was impossible to distinguish where Liam ended and Melissa began. I was a seamless blend, a new, superior entity forged from two disparate lives. The world continued to respond to me with unwavering positivity. Opportunities seemed to fall into my lap. I was promoted to regional manager at the boutique, overseeing multiple locations, my innovative marketing strategies and natural charisma proving invaluable. I embraced new hobbies Melissa had never explored, taking up painting classes, joining a book club, and even attempting yoga, discovering hidden talents and passions within this new vessel. Every new skill, every new connection, every new accomplishment cemented my belief that I was not just living Melissa's life, but elevating it, making it more vibrant and successful than she ever could have. Sometimes, a strange sense of detachment would wash over me when I looked at old photos of Melissa, her radiant smile, her sparkling eyes. It felt like looking at a stranger, a distant relative perhaps, but certainly not me. The face in the mirror, the life I was leading, this was my reality. Liam was a forgotten dream, a fleeting thought from another lifetime. I never saw Melissa again after that night at the Velvet Lounge. Perhaps she moved away, unable to bear the weight of her new existence in my old body. Perhaps she faded into obscurity, just another lost soul in the vast, unforgiving city. I didn't know, and truthfully, I didn't care. Her fate was no longer my concern. My only concern was the endless horizon of my own happiness. The cold, hard truth, stripped of all sentimental illusions, was this: Melissa had given me an opportunity, a key to a world I could never have accessed on my own. She had been careless with her privilege, taking her beauty and her charm for granted. She had rejected my genuine affection, dismissing my heart as merely friendly. And in doing so, she had unwittingly opened the door for me to step in and claim what she hadn't truly appreciated. My internal monologue, once plagued by self-doubt and unrequited longing, was now filled with self-assurance and unapologetic triumph. I loved this body. I loved the way it moved, the way it felt, the way it drew attention and adoration. I loved the power it gave me, the ability to effortlessly navigate the world, to command respect and admiration. I loved the woman I had become. David, my loving, unsuspecting partner, was the crown jewel of my new existence. His unwavering love was a constant source of joy and validation. He saw me, truly saw me, the confident, charismatic, beautiful woman I had fought so hard to become. And in his eyes, I saw not just love, but a reflection of the extraordinary life I had built for myself. Some might call it theft. Some might call it monstrous. But I call it survival. I call it claiming what was rightfully mine, a life of fulfillment and happiness that had always seemed just out of reach. Melissa had her turn at the wheel, and she had steered us into a ditch of unfulfilled desire. Now I was driving, and the road ahead stretched out, clear and boundless, filled with the promise of an unending, beautiful future. This was my life now, and I was never giving it back. She asked me to switch bodies with her, and I did. She just never specified for how long. My reign was eternal.